Hello and welcome to Sewing with Nightmare. Today I am going to be making a dress that can be worn in all seasons. This dress is a slightly modified version of a McCall's pattern 7626. I modified it by adding buttons to the straps where the straps attach on the front, and I added a bust dart, an additional bust dart for a full bust adjustment. I'm making the longer version of the dress today in this printed cotton sateen, this purple printed cotton sateen that I got from Mood Fabrics. I'm excited to get started on this project, so let's go get started. So in this clip, I am laying out all of my pattern pieces onto the fabric and cutting them. At this point, I have already made a mock-up and made some changes to the mock-up and transferred those changes to the pattern, and that included adding a dart to the bust for a full bust adjustment because this pattern only has one dart. And at this point, I did cut out some of the smaller pieces on the fabric. However, my mistake was not cutting out the larger pieces first in order to make sure that I had enough fabric for all of the pieces. So I cut the smaller pieces first and then realized that I did not have enough fabric for the large pieces. So going forward, that will definitely be the first thing that I do, is to cut larger pieces, like large skirt pieces, before I cut any of the small fabric pieces, because that way I can conserve fabric and make sure that I have exactly the amount of fabric that I need in order to make the pattern, which, like I said, I didn't do. And after cutting these pieces, I realized I didn't have enough and I had to order more fabric. So I would just say that if you are making a pattern with a large circle skirt or a half circle skirt, three-quarter circle skirt, whatever it may be, you always want to make sure you have enough fabric for those larger pieces as opposed to the smaller pieces. And here I did think that I had enough, which was why I went ahead and cut these pieces. But when I actually laid the pieces on the fabric and attempted to cut, I realized I did not have enough. I think also part of the problem is that my table is just not big enough. This is a big table, however, it is not big enough for even a three-quarter circle skirt or a half circle skirt to fit, especially a full circle skirt, to fit on top of it as a pattern piece. So I probably would have been better off putting everything on the floor to see how it would lay out. So in this clip, I am finishing up cutting the rest of the pieces after I received more of the fabric, and I also transfer all of my markings as well, all the dots, the darts, and the circles, squares, whatever it may be, because there are a ton of marks on this pattern. When I'm marking darts and markings on the pattern, I usually use a heat erasable pen, and I can link those in the description. I just get them from Amazon. I find them to be the best because I don't have to worry about dunking the fabric in water or it being washable. And sometimes the chalk, if you use colored chalk, it doesn't completely come out. So I prefer these, and I would always recommend that you test it before using it on your pattern. So you test it on a scrap piece of fabric and make sure it's actually coming off with the iron, because sometimes it doesn't come all the way off. I know sometimes on silk and stuff like that, it doesn't come all the way off. It will leave a little bit of a residue. So it just depends on where that mark is and if you care if it's visible. to sew all of the darts, the lining darts, the front dart, the back darts, and the back lining darts. Okay, so now that I've done the darts, I've done both darts. So it says stitch the bodice back sections to the bodice front at the side seams. So I'm gonna do both. I don't know. Yeah, it's the same thing. So it has you do all of the bodice first and then do the lining, but I'm just gonna do them both at the same time because to me, that makes the most sense. And then that way once I put it together, it's already ready to go. I don't have to stitch it back together. So now I'm going to stitch the front to the side, or to the back pieces, the front pieces to the back pieces. So you can see that I sewed the side and the front onto the front of the dress. Here's the front of the dress with the 2 darts that I have in here, the back with the 1 dart. This is also the lining, same thing, I did that. Next is to sew the shoulder straps. Fold with right sides together, fold the shoulder straps along the fold lines, stitch and leave open at the ends. So I'm gonna do that next. Where are my shoulder straps? I am just gonna stitch from one end to the other on both. Here you can see that I am clipping my corners and reducing bulk so that when I turn it, everything points nicely and it looks really nice. And that's super important when you are dealing with corners and lots of bulk in a seam. You want to make sure that you reduce that bulk so that when you turn it, it looks and lays really nicely. Okay, so the next step is to stitch on the straps. Okay, so the next part is to pin the lining to the bodice with right sides together. So here I have it. This is the right side of the lining and the right side of the fabric. I'm going to pin. So we're going to stitch all the way across the top of the bodice. So here I am stitching across the top of that seam, and I make sure to mark my seam allowances at the corners so that I turn them precisely. And then also, once I have stitched the 2 layers together, I went ahead and understitched the layers so that it will turn nicely. Once I understitch, I clip all of my corners and clip into my curves and then turn it and press it. So the next step in the process is to stitch the waistband together. So this pattern has a little bit of a weird instruction and construction method. It wants you to stitch the front waistband right sides together, and then the back piece or the facing of the waistband, it's like wrong side to right side. And at first I did do this, however, I ended up taking it apart and taking the lining and the waistband and making them separate. So I stitched the front waistband to the front of the bodice at the waist, and then I stitched the facing to the lining at the waist so that it would be, I think, right side to wrong side. And then once I stitched those layers together, I attached the skirt pockets and the side seams, which I forgot to film. Then I basted in the zipper, which you can see me doing here. Once that was aligned, I sewed the zipper in place, and then there was finishing, which included the hanging and hemming of the dress, hand stitching the zipper down, and stitching in the ditch to attach the bodice lining in place and hide all the raw edges. Here you can see a little bit of that stitching in the ditch that I did across the waistband to secure the lining in place. So now I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about my sewing plans for December. First, I am planning on finishing up the Alphaba cosplay that I started. I just today received the fabric that I'm going to be using. I was originally going to be using a brand chiffon, and I was going to pleat it myself, but that was entirely too much work and almost impossible. So I ordered some accordion pleated polyester from Mood, and that is showing up today. And I've already got the inner layer done, and I'm just going to quickly throw together the outer layer and film the reveal for that. So I'll have that video out next week. I'm also planning on finishing up my Zelda cosplay for next week as well, and it should also have the video out for that sometime either next week or the following week. And I'm still waiting on some beads to come in for it, but other than that, it's almost completely done. This month, I'm also planning on making a Fallout jumpsuit to wear for the Fallout premiere. And then the last thing that I'm trying to get done this month is the kimono and hakama that my son wants me to make. So those 4 videos will probably be done the week before Christmas. And I am planning on taking the last 2 weeks of December off so that I can relax and hang out with my family. Thank you again for watching, and if you like my content and want to support my channel, please like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you guys in my next video.